The plastic chair was cold through my dress, and a 7-year-old asked if I wanted the booster seat. Then the front door opened, and the CEO walked in, holding wine. I stood in the archway of Daniel and Olivia's new Brookline brownstone, cranberry salad growing warm in my hands. November light slanted through tall windows, catching the crystal in the formal dining room where Olivia was arranging place cards. Executives from MedTech Solutions were already seated, laughing over appetizers I recognized from the fancy downtown caterer. My place card sat on a folding table in the sunroom, next to children under 10. The bowl grew heavier. A little girl with glitter on her hands pointed to the empty seat beside her. "You can sit here, ma'am. Do you need the booster?" I didn't answer. I watched Olivia glide between the executives in her cream silk blouse, topping off glasses, accepting compliments on the brownstone they'd bought 3 months ago. Daniel hovered near the kitchen doorway, wouldn't meet my eyes when I looked his way. He mumbled something about table space and disappeared. The plastic chair squeaked when I sat. Crayon smell mixed with roasted turkey. From the dining room, I heard Olivia's voice rise in a toast to an incredible year of innovation at MedTech Solutions. Glasses clinked. Laughter rolled through like I wasn't 20 feet away, separated by a doorway and 30 years of work nobody knew I'd done. The front door opened. Edward Wallace walked in holding a bottle of wine, apologizing for running late to Olivia's celebration dinner. He was older than I remembered from the business journals, gray at the temples, expensive suit, the kind of handshake that closed deals. MedTech's CEO, Olivia's boss. His eyes swept the formal dining room, counting heads, smiling at the setup. Then they landed on me in the sunroom, on the folding table, beside the children. His face went completely white. He crossed the room in 4 strides, ignoring Olivia's sudden chatter behind him. He stopped at my table, and the little girl with glitter hands went quiet. Catherine Shaw. I stood. My hands were shaking, but I kept my voice level. Yes, the Shaw who designed the Newton algorithm? The dining room went silent. Fork stopped mid-air. I heard Olivia's breath catch from across the brownstone. "I used your white papers in my graduate thesis at MIT in 1998, Wallace continued, his voice louder now, filling the space. "Your predictive patient flow modeling changed how I thought about healthcare software architecture." I felt every eye in that house turn toward the sunroom, toward the kids' table, toward me. "Mr. Wallace," I said quietly, "I'm Daniel's mother, and Olivia's mother-in-law." Olivia's face drained of every drop of color, because in that single moment, everyone in that dining room realized the brilliant innovations Olivia had been presenting for 18 months. The promotions, the salary increases, the fast track to senior director had a source. And that source had just been seated at the kids' table like she didn't matter. Wallace's face shifted from confusion to something I couldn't quite name. He looked at Olivia, then back at me, then at the folding table with the crayon drawings and juice boxes. Olivia's toast hung frozen mid-air, her glass trembling in her hand, her face the color of November frost. The little girl beside me whispered, "Is that lady in trouble?" I didn't answer. I just watched Olivia try to smile, try to explain, try to salvage what was already breaking apart in front of her colleagues, her boss, her carefully built reputation. When you've been seated where you don't belong, do you stay silent or speak? Drop your answer in the comment. The coffee went cold at 2 a.m. before I remembered I'd made it. The file cabinet drawer stuck the way it always did when I was searching for proof, not memories. Sunday night. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Olivia's face draining of color, heard Wallace's voice saying my name like I was someone who mattered. Daniel hadn't called, hadn't texted. The silence from Brookline felt heavier than the humiliation. I sat in my home office in Newton, surrounded by 30 years of work. The desk lamp cast shadows across filing cabinets I hadn't opened in months. My laptop, ancient, slow, reliable, hummed on the desk beside cold coffee. I pulled the bottom drawer. It stuck, groaned, finally gave way. Tax returns from 2019 sat on top, dusty and forgotten. Underneath, a flash drive labeled Backup 2019 in my own handwriting. I plugged it into the laptop. The fan whirred louder, processing. Folders appeared on the screen, named in my systematic way. Algorithm Notes 2003-2007. Patent Drafts 2008-2012. Predictive Modeling 2015-2018. My hands stopped shaking. I opened the first folder. Time-stamped files. Code I'd written at this very desk. Documentation with my notes in the margins. My questions, my solutions. The Newton algorithm in its earliest form, before I'd ever consulted for a hospital, before anyone outside academic circles knew my name. I opened Olivia's LinkedIn profile on my phone, scrolled to her posts from March 2023. Excited to announce the launch of our new predictive patient flow modeling system using Shaw methodology. Shaw methodology. That was my term. I invented it in 2007, named it after myself when I was still proud enough to claim my work publicly. The metadata on my flash drive proved it. Time-stamped, unaltered, undeniably mine. I clicked through her other posts. Every major announcement, every promotion, every innovation she'd presented matched files sitting on this flash drive, word for word. Concept for concept. My architecture, my code, my 15 years of problem solving uploaded into her portfolio like I'd never existed. The laptop fan whirred in the quiet house. Dust floated through the desk lamp's glow. I could smell the old paper in the filing cabinet, the coffee going stale, the faint trace of the aftershave Daniel used to wear before he moved to Seattle, before he came back with Olivia, before she asked to work remotely in peace from my office. I saved screenshots, matched dates, built a timeline on a legal pad, her presentations on one side, my file timestamps on the other. The pattern was surgical. 47 files accessed, 47 stepping stones to senior director. The clock read 4:23 a.m. when I finally closed the laptop. I had proof. Abigail didn't hug me when I arrived Monday morning. She pointed to the chair, read the flash drive file list, and said 3 words. Touch nothing else. Her office in Cambridge hadn't changed since college. Law books floor to ceiling, framed patents on the walls, cold November light pouring through tall windows that overlooked the street. Abigail had gone gray gracefully, kept her desk obsessively organized, and built a reputation in intellectual property law that made companies nervous. She was semi-retired now, taking only cases that interested her. I was hoping this one would. I handed her the flash drive. She plugged it into her computer without speaking, scrolled through folders, opened files at random. Her face stayed neutral, but I saw her jaw tighten when she cross-referenced my timestamps with Olivia's LinkedIn announcements on her second monitor. "This isn't accidental similarity," Abigail said finally, still staring at the screens. "This is systematic theft." My throat felt tight. I gave her access to my office. She said she needed quiet space to work remotely. I thought I was helping. You were. She exploited it. Abigail pulled a legal pad toward her, started writing in her precise handwriting. How long did she have access? 2 years, 3 months. Abigail wrote that down. Did she ever ask about your work directly? I thought back. She called it outdated once, said I was living in the past, that modern systems had moved beyond what I'd built. I laughed, but it came out bitter. Turns out, modern systems were exactly what I'd built. She just put her name on them. Abigail made another note. We need digital forensics, someone who can prove access. Document every file she touched, build a timeline that holds up legally. She picked up her phone, scrolled through contacts. I know someone, Finn. He's expensive, but he's thorough. I'll pay whatever it costs. Abigail looked at me over her reading glasses. This could get complicated. Family cases always do. Daniel already chose her over me at Thanksgiving. He might not have known. He knew enough to seat me at the kids' table. Abigail set her phone down. I need you to preserve everything. Don't touch those files again. Don't confront Olivia. Don't talk to Daniel about this until we have a legal strategy." She wrote Finn's name at the top of the legal pad. "We move quietly, build the case before they know it's coming." "How long?" 3 days for forensics, maybe a week to file if the evidence is clean. She met my eyes. "This is going to hurt your family, Catherine. Are you sure?" I thought about the plastic chair, the booster seat question, Olivia toasting her incredible year while I sat with children who didn't know my name. "I'm sure." Abigail nodded once and picked up her phone. 15 minutes later, Finn arrived. He was younger than I expected, carrying a forensics kit that looked like something from a crime show. He didn't shake my hand, just opened the kit, pulled out cables and drives. "How long did she have access to your office?" he asked. 2 years, 3 months. He nodded once. "We'll know everything she touched within 3 days. Professional help or handle it alone? What's your first move when betrayal hits this close?" 47 access events. Finn didn't raise his voice when he said it. He just highlighted the Excel column in yellow and turned the monitor toward me. 3 days had passed. Abigail's conference room smelled like coffee and printer toner. Finn had filled the whiteboard with dates, file names, access logs, a map of theft so methodical it looked like a business plan. "Olivia's work laptop accessed your external hard drive 47 times between January 2022 and October 2024, Finn said, pointing to the spreadsheet. "Every single access corresponds with a major presentation she gave to MedTech leadership." He clicked to the next tab. A second spreadsheet appeared, Olivia's LinkedIn announcements on the left, my file timestamps on the right, her promotion dates in a third column. The pattern was perfect, damning. "January 15, 2022, Finn read. "She accessed your algorithm notes folder, January 28, 2022. She presented innovative predictive modeling framework to MedTech executives. February 2022, she received her first promotion to product manager." He scrolled down. "March 2023, she accessed your patent drafts folder, including the Shaw methodology documentation. March 20th, 2023, she announced the product launch using your exact terminology. April 2023, promoted to senior product manager with a 40% salary increase." My hands were shaking again. I gripped the edge of the conference table. "October 2024, Finn continued. "Final access to your updated code documentation. October 15, 2024, she presented next-generation patient flow systems at MedTech's investor meeting. October 30th, 2024, she was fast-tracked to senior director." Abigail stood at the whiteboard, mapping it out with different colored markers. Blue for theft events, red for presentations, green for promotions. The lines connected like a circuit board, each stolen file powering the next step in Olivia's career. "The metadata is forensically airtight," Finn said. "File access times, modification dates, device identifiers, all traceable to her work laptop. She didn't even try to hide it." "Because she didn't think anyone would check," Abigail said quietly. Finn nodded. "She assumed your work was private, that you'd never go public. That even if you did, who would believe the mother-in-law over the rising star?" I stared at the spreadsheet. 47 times. 47 moments when Olivia walked into my office, smiled, made small talk about Daniel, then systematically uploaded my life's work into her portfolio. "Can we prove intent?" I asked. "The pattern proves intent," Finn said. "One access could be accidental. 47 accesses, each followed by a presentation using identical methodology. That's deliberate intellectual property theft." Abigail pulled 2 documents from her briefcase and slid them across the table. Emergency motion to freeze Olivia's employment contract. Preservation order preventing further patent applications in her name. We file tomorrow at 9 a.m. Quietly. I read both documents. Legal language, but the meaning was clear. Stop her before she takes anything else. My hand was steadier when I signed. They ignored the timestamps and paid for years. Subscribe so you catch the pattern before it costs you everything. Abigail capped her pen. Olivia has no idea this is coming. We keep it that way until the motion is filed and sealed. And then her world shifts. Pause here. 47 stolen access events, each one a promotion. Write that number down. You'll see why it matters. The courthouse hallway smelled like floor wax and old briefs. Abigail filed the motion in a folder marked Confidential Employment Matter, and the clerk never looked up. Tuesday morning. The Suffolk County Courthouse was busier than I expected. Lawyers in suits carrying briefcases, families huddled on benches outside courtrooms, the low hum of legal business proceeding without drama. Abigail moved through it like she'd done this 1,000 times. She probably had. We took the elevator to the 3rd floor. The clerk's office was tucked at the end of a hallway lined with identical wooden doors. Inside, a woman in her 50s sat behind plexiglass, processing paperwork with mechanical efficiency. Abigail slid the folder through the opening. Emergency motion with supporting evidence. Request for seal and expedited hearing. The clerk stamped it without reading. Case number? Abigail provided it. The clerk typed, stamped again, filed the folder in a bin marked Urgent Judge Review. You'll receive notice of the hearing date within 48 hours, the clerk said, already reaching for the next folder. That was it. No theatrics, no confrontation, just manila folders and stamps and a system designed to move quietly until it needed to be loud. We walked back to the parking garage in silence. Abigail's heels clicked on concrete. Somewhere above us, pigeons nested in the rafters. The November air was cold enough to see our breath. How long before Olivia finds out? I asked. The motion is sealed until the hearing. She won't know unless MedTech's legal team catches it during routine monitoring. Most companies don't check that closely. Abigail unlocked her car. We have a small window, maybe 4 days, maybe less. And the evidence packet? Goes to MedTech's CEO tomorrow. FedEx, signature required. He'll read it before his legal team does. Abigail slid into the driver's seat. Sometimes you need the person at the top to understand the stakes before the lawyers start negotiating. I got in the passenger side. My hands were cold, but I wasn't shaking anymore. Abigail's phone buzzed before she started the engine. She checked the screen, then showed it to me. Text from the clerk's office. Motion sealed, hearing scheduled 11/29, 10 a.m. 4 days. Olivia had 4 days before her world shifted. 4 days of thinking she'd gotten away with it. 4 days of LinkedIn posts and executive meetings and planning her next promotion. 4 days before she learned that silence isn't the same as surrender. Abigail started the car. Want coffee? I want this to be over. It will be, but first, we make sure it's done right. Go loud immediately or move in silence? Which strategy would you choose? The FedEx envelope was 3 inches thick. Abigail addressed it to Edward Wallace personally, marked, Attorney Correspondence Confidential. Inside, proof his rising star was built on stolen foundation. Wednesday afternoon. Abigail's office had transformed into an assembly line. We spread the evidence across her conference table, forensic timeline, access logs, metadata comparisons, side-by-side algorithm documentation. We need this to speak for itself, Abigail said, organizing documents into sections with colored tab dividers. Wallace is a CEO. He thinks in data, risk, and reputation. She started with the forensic timeline. Finn had formatted it beautifully. Clean spreadsheet, yellow highlights showing the 47 access events, red markers where each access matched one of Olivia's presentations. The pattern was impossible to miss. Next came the metadata comparisons. My original files on the left, timestamp 2003 through 2018. Olivia's innovations on the right, presented 2022 through 2024. The language was identical, not similar, identical. Abigail pulled out the side-by-side algorithm documentation. My Newton algorithm from 2007, handwritten notes still visible in the margins. Olivia's predictive patient flow modeling using Shaw methodology from March 2023. Same structure, same logic, same unique terminology I'd invented when Daniel was still in high school. This section, Abigail said, tapping a page with her pen, shows she didn't even change the variable names in the code. She copied and pasted your work into her portfolio like she was downloading a template. I felt sick. How did she think nobody would notice? She assumed you'd never find out. Or if you did, you'd stay quiet to protect Daniel. Abigail slid the documents into a leather binder with brass fasteners. She was wrong on both counts. The cover letter was 1 page. Abigail had drafted it the night before, edited it down to 3 paragraphs. Professional, devastating, brief. Mr. Wallace. The enclosed documentation demonstrates that Olivia Hayes, currently under consideration for Senior Director at MedTech Solutions, has systematically stolen proprietary intellectual property from her mother-in-law, Catherine Shaw, over a 27-month period. The forensic evidence is comprehensive and legally actionable. Ms. Shaw designed the Newton algorithm and related predictive patient flow systems between 2003 and 2018. Ms. Hayes accessed these materials 47 times between January 2022 and October 2024, presenting them as her original work to MedTech leadership. Your rising star has been stealing from her mother-in-law for 2 years. The attached timeline, metadata analysis, and access logs provide irrefutable proof. Respectfully, Abigail Thorne, Eskearns Abigail sealed the envelope, addressed it in her perfect handwriting, and walked it to the FedEx office herself. I went with her. We stood at the counter while the clerk weighed it, printed the label, scanned it into the system. Signature required, Abigail told the clerk. Deliver to Edward Wallace only. If he's unavailable, hold for pickup. The clerk nodded, stamped it, tossed it in the bin, marked next day delivery. We walked back to Abigail's car in silence. What happens now? I asked. We wait. Wallace gets it Friday afternoon. He'll read it over the weekend. Monday morning, his legal team gets involved. Abigail unlocked her car. Then it moves fast. Miss one strategic move like this, and you hand control to the thief. Subscribe. Learn the counter moves that protect what's yours. FedEx tracking, confirmed delivery, Friday at 2:47 p.m. to Wallace's executive assistant. MedTech's legal team would read it Monday morning. The weekend silence felt like the air before a verdict. Abigail's phone rang at 8:52 a.m. Monday. MedTech's general counsel. The voice was calm, clipped, and moving fast. I was in Abigail's office when the call came. She put it on speaker. Ms. Thorne, this is Thomas Bell, general counsel for MedTech Solutions. I'm calling regarding the documentation we received concerning Olivia Hayes. Abigail's face stayed neutral. Good morning, Mr. Bell. We conducted an emergency review over the weekend. Our technical team verified the forensic timeline, cross-referenced the access logs with our internal security records, and reviewed Ms. Hayes' presentation materials. He paused. The allegations are substantiated. My heart was beating so hard I could hear it. MedTech takes intellectual property theft extremely seriously, he continued. This presents a significant reputational risk, not only to our company, but to our investors, our clients, and our employees. I'm sure it does, Abigail said evenly. We'd like to request a confidential meeting to discuss resolution. Wednesday, 10 a.m., our headquarters. We'll have our executive team present, including CEO Edward Wallace. Abigail glanced at me. I nodded. We'll be there, Abigail said. One more thing. His voice dropped. Olivia Hayes will be placed on administrative leave effective immediately, pending the outcome of our internal investigation. We're taking this very seriously, Ms. Thorne. I appreciate that, Mr. Bell. We'll see you Wednesday. The line went dead. Abigail set her phone down and looked at me. They're terrified. How can you tell? 8:52 on a Monday morning. That call was drafted, reviewed, and approved by multiple people over the weekend. Wallace probably read your packet Friday night and called an emergency meeting Saturday. She pulled out her legal pad, started making notes. They moved Olivia to administrative leave before we even asked. That's damage control. What does that mean for Wednesday? It means they want this resolved quietly. No lawsuit, no public scandal, no headlines about their rising star stealing from a 67-year-old widow. Abigail kept writing. They'll come with an offer. Settlement, acknowledgement of your IP, probably money. And if the offer isn't enough, then we file the lawsuit Thursday morning and let the tech journalists have a field day. Abigail looked up from her notes. But my guess? They'll offer enough. I thought about Olivia sitting in that brownstone, watching her LinkedIn profile, wondering why her boss hadn't returned her calls. Daniel sitting somewhere between us, realizing the woman he married wasn't who she claimed to be. What about Daniel? I asked. That's not a legal question. That's a family question. Abigail's voice softened. One thing at a time, Catherine. Wednesday, we get your work recognized. Everything else comes after. The meeting was set for Wednesday, 10 a.m., MedTech headquarters. Abigail hung up and turned to me. They're terrified. Olivia will be on administrative leave by tomorrow. I felt my hands stop shaking for the first time since Thanksgiving. Corporate panic or your vindication? Which moment hits harder? Tell me below. Olivia's LinkedIn status changed at 11:34 a.m. Tuesday. On sabbatical for personal development. Daniel texted 3 minutes later. One word. Mom. I was having lunch when my phone buzzed. I almost didn't check it. Tuna sandwich, kitchen table, the house quiet, in that way it gets when you live alone. The text sat there on my screen. Just that one word, Mom. I put my phone face down on the table, took another bite of sandwich, tried to ignore the way my chest felt tight. It buzzed again. Another text. Can we talk? I saved both screenshots. Date, time, exact wording. Abigail had taught me well, document everything. But I didn't reply. Not yet. Instead, I opened LinkedIn on my laptop, found Olivia's profile. The update had posted 11 minutes ago. Taking a sabbatical for personal development and reflection, grateful for this time to focus on growth. Personal development. Growth. Corporate language designed to hide the truth. The truth was simpler. MedTech's legal team had pulled her security badge, disabled her email access, and told her not to contact anyone at the company while they completed their internal investigation. I knew this because Abigail had called me an hour earlier to confirm it. Olivia's out, she'd said. Administrative leave. She won't be at Wednesday's meeting. Did they tell her why? They cited ongoing review of employment practices. She knows something's wrong, but she doesn't know we have the forensic evidence yet. I closed LinkedIn, looked at Daniel's texts again. Mom, can we talk? He knew. Or he was starting to figure it out. Olivia comes home early on a Tuesday, tells him she's on sabbatical, acts like everything's fine while her career collapses under the weight of evidence she doesn't know exists. My phone buzzed a third time. Please. I picked it up, stared at that single word, thought about Thanksgiving, the plastic chair, the way he wouldn't meet my eyes when he mumbled about table space. I put the phone down and finished my sandwich. Abigail called Wednesday morning before the MedTech meeting. They're bringing a settlement offer. Significant. Are you ready to hear numbers, or do you want justice on record? I thought about the kids' table, the booster seat question, Olivia's toast. Both, I said. I want both. One status change and the truth goes public. Subscribe so you see the shift before everyone else does. 3 hours later, I texted Daniel back. 2 words. Friday dinner. He replied in seconds. I'll be there. I saved that screenshot too. Settlement money or public accountability? Can you have both, or must you choose? The conference room had a view of Boston Harbor. MedTech's general counsel slid a folder across the table before anyone sat down. Abigail opened it without expression. Wednesday, 10 a.m. MedTech headquarters occupied 3 floors of a glass tower in the Seaport District. The elevator had required a security badge. The receptionist had checked our IDs twice. We were escorted to the 20th floor by someone from their legal team who didn't make eye contact. Edward Wallace stood when we entered. He looked older than he had at Thanksgiving, tired around the eyes. Thomas Bell, the general counsel, sat to his right. Two other executives I didn't recognize flanked the table. "Ms. Shaw," Wallace said, "thank you for coming." I nodded. Didn't shake his hand, just sat down across from him with Abigail beside me. Bell opened the meeting. "We've completed our preliminary investigation. The evidence you provided is conclusive. Olivia Hayes accessed your proprietary materials without authorization and presented them as her original work to MedTech leadership." 47 times, I said quietly. "Yes." Bell didn't flinch. "We take full responsibility for our failure to verify the originality of her work. We should have caught this." Abigail opened the folder he'd given us. Read silently. Her face stayed neutral, but I saw her eyebrow raise slightly. "We're prepared to offer the following," Bell continued. "Formal written acknowledgement that you, Catherine Shaw, are the original creator of the Newton algorithm and all related predictive patient flow modeling systems. Exclusive licensing agreement for MedTech's use of your algorithms with ongoing royalties. 6-figure settlement payment to compensate for the unauthorized use of your intellectual property, and a confidentiality agreement preventing public disclosure of this matter." Abigail set the folder down. "The acknowledgement must be legally recorded, not just internal documentation. The licensing royalties must be structured as a percentage of revenue from products using Ms. Shaw's systems, not a flat fee. The settlement payment needs to be increased by 40%, and the confidentiality agreement must be limited. Ms. Shaw retains the right to protect her professional reputation publicly, without naming MedTech specifically." Bell made notes. "We can agree to recorded acknowledgement and limited confidentiality. The royalty structure and payment increase require executive approval." "Then get it," Abigail said simply. Bell looked at Wallace. Wallace nodded. "One additional item," Bell said. "We'd like to offer Ms. Shaw an ongoing consulting role with MedTech, advisory position. Her choice to accept or decline, no pressure." I almost laughed. They wanted to hire me. The woman whose work they'd built promotions on without knowing it. The woman Olivia had seated at the kids' table. Abigail looked at me. I nodded once. "We'll consider the consulting offer separately," Abigail said. "First, we finalize the settlement terms." Bell stood. "I'll need to consult with our executive team. 20 minutes. He left. The other executives followed. Wallace stayed. "Ms. Shaw," he said when we were alone, "I owe you an apology. If I'd known at Thanksgiving—" "You didn't ask," I said. "You saw an old woman at a kid's table and assumed she belonged there." He looked at me for a long moment. "You're right. I'm sorry." 23 minutes later, Bell returned with a revised offer and one new clause. Ms. Shaw will be offered ongoing consulting role, her choice to accept. Abigail looked at me. I nodded once. "We'll draft final terms by Friday. Consulting role from the company that enabled the theft. Take it or walk away clean." The moving truck arrived at Daniel and Olivia's brownstone on Saturday. He texted me the address of his new apartment Sunday night. Alone. I was folding laundry when the text came through. Just an address in Cambridge near Kendall Square. Nothing else. No explanation. No context. I sat down on the couch with a towel half folded in my lap. Daniel had moved out, left the brownstone they'd bought with Olivia's stolen promotion money, filed for divorce papers, according to Abigail, who'd heard from a colleague who knew Olivia's attorney. My phone buzzed again. "Can we talk when you're ready? I understand if you need time." I set the phone down, picked up the towel, finished folding it, put it in the basket with the others. Ready. What did ready mean when your son had chosen his wife over you at Thanksgiving, then chosen you over his wife a month later? When he'd seen you seated at a folding table with children and said nothing? When he'd mumbled about table space like that explained erasure? I thought about the evidence timeline, Olivia's promotions, the 47 Access events. Daniel had lived in that house while she stole my work. Had he known? Had he suspected? Or had he been as fooled as everyone else? My phone sat on the couch cushion beside me. The message glowed on the lock screen. "Can we talk when you're ready?" I picked it up, stared at it, thought about all the calls he hadn't made after Thanksgiving, all the texts he hadn't sent, the silence that had felt like choosing sides. But he'd moved out, filed for divorce, texted me his new address. That meant something. I typed slowly. Friday, 6 p.m. My house. Bring groceries. 3 dots appeared immediately. He was typing. "I'll be there? Thank you." I saved the screenshot, added it to the folder on my laptop where I kept everything: evidence, texts, LinkedIn updates, settlement documents, a record of how things break and how they start to mend. Abigail called an hour later. "Daniel filed for divorce this morning," she said. "Irreconcilable differences and breach of trust. Olivia's attorney tried to negotiate, but he's not interested." "How do you know?" "I know people. Legal community's small." She paused. "How are you doing with this?" "He's coming to dinner Friday." "That's good, that's a start." "Is it?" I asked. "He let her erase me, Abigail. He stood there at Thanksgiving and let it happen." "I know." Her voice was gentle. "But he's choosing differently now. That has to count for something." I looked at the laundry basket, the folded towels, the quiet house that had been mine alone since my husband died, then shared briefly when Daniel came home, then mine again after he moved out with Olivia. Now we had a new apartment, alone, starting over. Maybe we both were. Relationships fracture in the time it takes to send one text. Subscribe. Catch the warning signs before the damage becomes permanent. I called Daniel Tuesday evening. He answered on the first ring, voice tight. "Mom, I should have believed you. I saw the signs and I stopped him. "Come to dinner Friday, we'll start there." He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath since Thanksgiving. Forgive immediately or make them wait. How do you rebuild trust after this? The signature page had 6 lines. I signed the last one at 4:17 p.m. on December 10th, and Abigail witnessed it in blue ink. Her office felt different that afternoon. Warmer, maybe. Or maybe it was just me, finally breathing without the weight of erasure pressing on my chest. Abigail set her pen down and looked at the signature page. "That's it. You're legally recognized as the original creator of the Newton algorithm and all related predictive patient flow modeling systems." I stared at my signature. Catherine Eleanor Shaw. My full name in blue ink on a legal document that would be recorded, filed permanent. Not hidden, not erased, mine. "The licensing agreement goes into effect January 1st, Abigail continued, sliding the documents into a leather portfolio. MedTech will pay quarterly royalties based on revenue from any product using your systems. The settlement payment will be transferred to your account within 10 business days. 6 figures. For work I'd done years ago in this same city, in a home office where nobody saw me, where I built systems that changed healthcare software and never asked for recognition until someone stole it. "The confidentiality clause is limited," Abigail reminded me. "You can protect your professional reputation publicly. You just can't name MedTech specifically or disclose the settlement terms." "I don't need to name them," I said. "I just need people to know the work is mine." Abigail pulled out a fireproof safe from under her desk, heavy, gray, the kind that survives everything. She placed the signed agreement inside, locked it, and handed me the portfolio copy. "This is your proof," she said. "Keep it somewhere safe." I held the portfolio in my lap, felt the weight of it. Leather, paper, signatures, legal language that meant I existed again in the record. MedTech committed to an internal ethics review, Abigail added. They're overhauling their verification processes for employee-submitted innovations. It won't bring back the years Olivia stole, but it might prevent the next theft. I nodded. That mattered. Not just for me, but for whoever came after me, the next person whose work got uploaded into someone else's career without permission. Abigail locked the safe and handed me a copy in a leather portfolio. "One more thing," she said, pulling out a second folder. "Updated patent applications with your name, your documentation, filed this morning. Your work is protected now, legally, permanently." I opened the folder. 3 patent applications. My name at the top of each one. Newton algorithm, predictive patient flow modeling, Shaw methodology, my name, my term, my work. "How long until they're approved?" I asked. 6 to 8 months for full approval, but the applications are on record as of today, time-stamped. "Filed under your name." Abigail smiled. "Nobody can claim they invented it first. You're in the system now." I closed the folder, felt the leather portfolio warm under my hands. "Thank you, Abigail." "You did the hard part," she said. "I just filed the paperwork." Legal victory. But does it heal the personal betrayal? What would closure look like for you? The check was made out to Elder Advocacy Legal Services, half the settlement. Abigail said I didn't have to do this. I signed it anyway, mid-December. The settlement money had cleared my account 3 days earlier. I'd stared at the balance for a long time, thinking about what it represented. Years of stolen work, promotions built on my code, the kids' table at Thanksgiving, but also Abigail's steady hands, Finn's forensic timeline, the legal system working the way it was supposed to when you had proof and resources. Not everyone had that. I sat at my kitchen table with the checkbook open, wrote out the amount carefully, half. Enough to fund legal cases for people who couldn't afford Abigail, couldn't hire Finn, couldn't fight back when family members or employers erased them. I tucked a note inside the envelope. For the one still sitting at the kids' table. No signature, no name, just that. The director of Elder Advocacy Legal Services called 2 days later. Her voice was warm, a little overwhelmed. "Ms. Shaw, I don't know how to thank you for this donation. It's transformational for our organization." "You don't need to thank me," I said. "Just use it. This will fund 3 full cases through trial, maybe 4, depending on complexity. We have a waiting list of people who need help: elder exploitation, intellectual property theft, family disputes over estate planning. Your donation changes what we can do." I thought about the flash drive, the forensic timeline, Abigail's conference room with evidence spread across the table like puzzle pieces that finally made sense. "Do you want updates on the cases we take?" the director asked. "We could send quarterly reports, let you know how the funds are being used." I thought about that for a moment, imagined reading case summaries, seeing other people's stolen work reclaimed, other families fractured and maybe healing. But that felt too close, too much like watching my own story play out in other people's lives. "No updates," I said, "just win them." "We will." Her voice broke slightly. "Some of our clients have been waiting years for someone to believe them. This makes that possible." Years. I'd waited weeks, not years. Had Abigail's number in my phone from college, had resources and education and a network that made fighting back possible. Not everyone did. "Ms. Shaw," the director said, "are you sure you don't want public recognition? We could name a program after you, acknowledge the donation in our annual report." "I'm sure," I said. "Use the money. That's enough." She thanked me 3 more times before we hung up. I filed the canceled check in my records folder, added it to the timeline of how things break and how they get fixed. The director's voice broke when she thanked me. "This will fund 3 full cases through trial. Do you want updates?" I thought about the flash drive, the forensic timeline. Abigail's steady hands. "Just win them," I said. "Use the money to secure your future or fund someone else's fight? What would you do?" Daniel arrived at 6:15 p.m. with grocery bags and a pecan pie from the bakery I took him to as a child. He didn't ask permission. He just started cooking. I stood in the doorway of my kitchen, watching him unpack ingredients. fresh vegetables, chicken, herbs, a bottle of wine. He moved carefully, like he was remembering the layout from years ago, from before he left for Seattle, from before Olivia. "I'm making the roast chicken you used to make on Sundays," he said without looking at me. "If that's okay." "It's okay." He nodded. Started washing vegetables in the sink. The water ran steady, familiar. I sat at the kitchen table and watched him work. We didn't talk right away. Just the sounds of cooking, knife on cutting board, oven door opening, timer being set. The smell of rosemary and garlic filled the house. Finally, he spoke. "I saw the signs, Mom. Olivia's promotion's coming too fast. The way she talked about her work like it was some breakthrough nobody had ever thought of before. The way she dismissed your career as outdated." He stopped chopping, stared at the cutting board. "I chose not to see it. That's on me." I watched him. His hands were shaking slightly, the way mine had shaken in Abigail's office. "Why?" I asked. "Because it was easier." He set the knife down. "Because she was confident and successful and made me feel like we were building something together. Because questioning her meant questioning everything." "Even when she seated me at the kids' table?" He flinched. "I should have stopped that. I should have—" His voice broke. I knew it was wrong. I knew. But I told myself it was just table space, just logistics, just one dinner. It wasn't one dinner, Daniel. It was 2 years of her stealing my work while you lived in the same house. "I know." He turned to face me. "I know, Mom. I can't undo it. I can't go back to Thanksgiving and fix it. All I can do is tell you the truth now. I was wrong. I chose wrong. I'm sorry." The oven timer beeped. He turned back to the counter, didn't wipe his eyes, just kept cooking. I let the silence sit for a minute, let the weight of it settle. "Trust rebuilds through time, not words," I said finally. "You can't apologize your way out of this. You show up, you listen, you choose differently." "I will." He slid the chicken into the oven. "However long it takes." We ate dinner at 7. The chicken was good. Crispy skin, moist inside, seasoned the way I'd taught him years ago. We talked about small things. His new apartment, my patent applications, Abigail's upcoming retirement party. Nothing about Olivia. Nothing about lawyers or settlements or LinkedIn status updates. Just dinner. Just starting. One conversation can rebuild or break a family permanently. Subscribe to see how boundaries create healing, not distance. Over pie, Daniel pulled an envelope from his jacket. "Olivia's attorney sent the final divorce papers yesterday. I signed them this morning." He slid a second paper across the table, a handwritten list titled Rebuilding Trust. Number 1, listen when Mom speaks every time. I folded it carefully and put it in my pocket. Written commitments or spoken promises? Which one actually rebuilds broken trust? The patent plaques arrived in January, 3 of them in padded boxes. My name, Catherine Eleanor Shaw, embossed in brass under each algorithm title. I unpacked them carefully at my kitchen table. Heavy, official, the kind of recognition that doesn't fade or get deleted or rewritten by someone else. Newton algorithm, my name underneath. Patent pending, filed December 2024. Predictive patient flow modeling systems, my name again. Shaw methodology. The term I'd invented in 2007 now legally protected with my name attached permanently. I carried them to my home office, the same room where Olivia had photographed my files, the same desk where I'd written the original code, the same filing cabinet that had held the flash drive labeled Backup 2019. I hung the first plaque on the wall where Olivia used to sit when she worked remotely in peace. The second one went above my desk. The third one I hung on the wall facing the door, so anyone who walked in would see it first, see my name, see the work that was mine. Abigail came over that afternoon, knocked twice, let herself in like she'd done since college. She was carrying a bottle of champagne and 2 glasses. "You hung them," she said, standing in the office doorway. "This morning." She set the glasses on my desk, opened the champagne without ceremony. The cork popped. the sound echoing in the quiet house. She poured 2 glasses, handed me one. To the Newton algorithm and the woman who created it. I touched my glass to hers. The crystal rang clear. And to never sitting at a table where I'm not honored, I added. She smiled. I'll drink to that. We stood in my office, sipping champagne, looking at the plaques on the wall. The brass caught the afternoon light coming through the window. My name gleamed. Olivia tried to call me last week, Abigail said quietly. I looked at her. What did she want? To ask if there was any way to resolve the misunderstanding without it affecting her professional reputation. Abigail took another sip. I told her there was no misunderstanding. There was theft, there was evidence, and there was a settlement she wasn't part of. What did she say? Nothing. She hung up. I thought about that. Olivia, somewhere in Boston, her LinkedIn profile scrubbed of the innovations she'd claimed, her medtech career over, her marriage dissolved. Facing the consequence of 47 access events that had seemed invisible until they weren't. Do you feel sorry for her? Abigail asked. I looked at the plaques, my name, my work, my recognition, finally recorded where no one could erase it. No, I said. I don't. Abigail raised her glass toward the plaques. To the Newton algorithm and the woman who created it. I touched my glass to hers, then added, and to never sitting at a table where I'm not honored. She smiled. I'll drink to that. Physical proof of your work. Does it matter, or is internal validation enough? Spring arrived with crocuses in the Newton garden and an invitation I almost threw away. MedTech's annual Innovation Gala. Catherine Shaw, honored guest. I set it on my desk and thought about plastic chairs. March 2025. The invitation was formal. Expensive cardstock with embossed lettering. My name printed under Honored Guest and Consulting Innovator. A table assignment at the head section. RSVP by March 15th. I stared at it for 3 days. Daniel called. Are you going? I don't know yet. You should go, he said. On your terms. Show them who you are. Abigail said the same thing when I showed her the invitation. You've earned this. Don't let what Olivia did keep you from being recognized now. So I went, but on my terms. I wore the navy dress I'd bought for my husband's memorial service. Dignified, classic, mine. Abigail had given me a small enamel pin the week before, inscribed Original Creator in tiny letters. I wore it on my lapel. Daniel picked me up at 6. He was wearing a suit, tie knotted carefully. Nervous energy radiating from him, like he was the one being honored. You look great, Mom. So do you. We drove to the seaport in comfortable silence. The gala was held in the same building as MedTech headquarters. 20th floor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Boston Harbor. I arrived precisely on time. Not early, not late, exactly when the invitation said. My name was on the seating chart. Head table, center section. Catherine Shaw, next to Edward Wallace. Olivia's name was nowhere on the list. Wallace stood when I approached, shook my hand. Ms. Shaw, thank you for coming. I nodded, sat down. Daniel sat beside me. The gala proceeded with speeches, awards, recognition of innovation in healthcare software. Wallace gave a keynote about the importance of verifying original work, protecting intellectual property, building systems of accountability. He didn't mention Olivia, didn't mention the settlement, didn't mention the investigation. But when he talked about honoring the original creators whose work shapes our industry, he looked directly at me. At the end of his speech, he added, "We're grateful to have consultants like Catherine Shaw, whose foundational work in predictive patient flow modeling continues to influence how we build better healthcare systems." Polite applause. A few people at nearby tables turned to look at me. I didn't smile or wave, just nodded once. I stayed for 1 hour, ate the dinner, listened to the speeches, thanked Wallace privately for the recognition. Then I left. Daniel walked me to my car under March stars. The gala noise faded behind us, replaced by the sound of the harbor, the city settling into evening. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Like I got to choose," I said. "Whether to come, when to leave, where to sit. That matters." He opened the car door for me. As I sat down, I touched the enamel pin on my lapel. Original creator. Not erased, not forgotten. Never again at a table where I'm not honored. The engine started smooth and we drove home through spring air. Cool, clear, and entirely mine. You'll forget this lesson by tomorrow unless you lock it in. Subscribe so the next story finds you when you need it most. What does it take to reclaim what was stolen from you? Share your thoughts below.